They value privacy and want to control what the internet knows about them. They worry about facial recognition, data scraping, or identity misuse. They prefer their ideas, work, or voice to be seen before their face. They feel photos invite unwanted attention or messages. They've experienced or fear online harassment and avoid giving a target. They're protecting loved ones' privacy by remaining visually anonymous. They dislike the pressure to perform or look a certain way for likes. They prioritize emotional safety over social validation. They're protecting a job, career path, or future opportunity from impulsive exposure. They believe personality trumps appearance and want to be judged on substance. They distrust platforms' data policies and prefer minimal digital footprint. They had a bad past experience with a photo being shared or misused. They're intentionally building mystery or curiosity around their identity. They're experimenting with boundaries, testing what connection feels like without a face. They're creating a brand that's centered on art, writing, or ideas, not a persona. They come from cultures or families where visible self-display is discouraged. They're introverted and find public self-portraits emotionally exhausting. They use anonymity as a tool for honest expression without social pressure. They're avoiding comparison culture and the mental toll of curated images. They worry about location or metadata embedded in images revealing too much. They prefer using avatars, objects, or landscapes to express identity visually. They're protecting themselves from doxing or revenge threats in volatile contexts. They've been taught modesty and choose not to center themselves visually. They find the labor of taking, editing, and posting photos not worth the cost. They're reclaiming agency by deciding when and if their image is public. They care about longevity. Older photos can be taken out of context later. They fear misrepresentation. Photos can be cropped, altered, or weaponized. They're building credibility through consistent content rather than a face. They're avoiding gambling with attention when they'd rather cultivate trust slowly. They have reasons of safety, living under threat, witness status, or sensitive work. They prefer intimate private sharing to broad public exposure. They think visuals can distract from nuanced conversations and complex ideas. They're reducing stress from maintaining an online look or aesthetic. They use privacy as a practice of self-respect and boundary setting. They may be neurodivergent and find social photos socially complex or draining. They've observed how photos can attract parasocial expectations and avoid that. They want relationships rooted in words, actions, or values, not image. They protect their mental health from comparison-triggering feedback loops. They're strategically anonymous to test ideas without personal consequences. They dislike the algorithmic preference for faces and reject playing that game. They respect that a person's appearance evolves and don't want one snapshot to define them. They fear that images could be used commercially without consent. They enjoy the freedom of being unknown online and the creative space it allows. They're asserting that visibility shouldn't be mandatory for connection or credibility. They model a countercultural choice, reminding others that presence can exist beyond portrait. The man who stayed off the grid. His name was Eli Maseko, a quiet, observant guy who never really fit into the digital noise. While everyone around him was obsessed with filters, likes, and perfect poses, Eli had a different relationship with the world. It wasn't that he hated social media, he just didn't trust what it did to people. Years ago, he used to post everything: his gym progress, selfies with friends, even pictures of the meals he cooked. But it changed the way people looked at him. Suddenly, everyone had opinions. His friends who never called started commenting heart emojis, but never checked on him in real life. Strangers compared, envied, or pretended to care. He realized he was feeding a system that rewarded appearances more than authenticity. Then came the real turning point. One day, a photo of him went viral, not because of something he did, but because someone used it in a meme without his permission. People laughed, made jokes, and for days he couldn't open his phone without seeing his own face used as entertainment. That humiliation sank deep. From that moment, Eli made a quiet promise to himself. My peace is not worth their validation. He started living more privately, capturing memories for himself, not for an audience. He took photos, yes, but they lived in folders no one else could see. His joy became sacred again. When people asked why he never posted pictures, he simply said, "Because I'd rather live the moment than perform it." Some thought he was hiding something, insecurity maybe. But the truth was simpler. Eli had learned that the most peaceful life is the one not constantly up for judgment. He still showed up for birthdays, still smiled for photos, but they were gifts for the moment, not the algorithm. In a world where everyone was desperate to be seen, Eli found his freedom in being unseen. In a world where everyone is chasing visibility, silence has become rebellion. The person who chooses not to post their pictures on social media is often misunderstood, called mysterious, insecure, or antisocial. But what if they're not avoiding the world? What if they're simply protecting their peace from it? Take the case of Eli Maseko, a man who once shared everything online, his laughter, his memories, his milestones. But over time, he realized that the digital applause wasn't real connection. It was performance. People didn't love his life. They loved how it looked. And in that realization, Eli began to feel invisible even while being seen by thousands. He noticed how posting became a silent competition. Who travels the most? Who looks happiest? Who's winning at life? The joy of being alive was slowly replaced by the anxiety of appearing alive. Every photo became a public statement, every smile a question of approval. Eli decided he didn't want to live like that anymore. When he stopped posting, people asked, "Are you okay?" As if privacy was a symptom of something wrong. But Eli was more than okay. For the first time, his experiences belonged to him again. The sunrise he captured was no longer filtered for likes. It was felt in his chest, raw and real. His relationships became deeper, not documented. Conversations weren't interrupted by the need for photos. They became moments of presence. Choosing not to post isn't rejection of technology. It's a statement of self-worth. It says, "I don't need validation to exist." It's an act of quiet rebellion in a culture addicted to being seen. People like Eli remind us that being private is not being lost. It's being found. They teach us that sometimes the truest form of confidence is not in displaying your life, but in guarding it. In an age where exposure is mistaken for expression, there is deep wisdom in protecting what is sacred. Your peace, your memories, your sense of self. To live unseen by choice is not an act of fear. It's an act of freedom. They value authenticity. They don't live for approval or attention. What you see is real, not rehearsed. Their actions are guided by inner values, not by what will get likes. They're emotionally mature. They've realized that validation from strangers doesn't equal self-worth. They don't need constant reassurance to feel confident in who they are. They protect their peace. They know the power of energy and attention. Instead of chasing digital applause, they invest in things that bring calm, clarity, and real joy. They live in the moment. While others are busy documenting life, they're experiencing it. The sunset, the laughter, the quiet. They keep it all for themselves, and that makes the memory purer. They have deep self-respect. They understand that not everything sacred should be public. Their boundaries show strength, not weakness. They value real connections. They'd rather have 3 genuine friends who know their soul than 3,000 followers who only know their face. They think deeply. People like Eli are often introspective. They question trends, motives, and the constant need for visibility. They think before they act, and that makes their choices intentional. They radiate mystery and calm. Their silence intrigues others because they don't crave the spotlight. And ironically, that makes them stand out even more. They're secure within themselves. They've found comfort in solitude and satisfaction in privacy. They don't need an audience to feel alive. Their sense of meaning comes from within. They live freely. Freedom isn't about doing everything, it's about not needing to. Eli's decision not to post is freedom from pressure, judgment, and comparison, the kind of freedom most people secretly crave. Not everyone who avoids posting pictures is hiding out of confidence. Some are hiding out of hurt, and that's okay. There's a quiet kind of courage in not showing up when the world demands your face. Some people, like Eli Maseko, carry insecurities they rarely talk about. Maybe it's about how they look, or how they feel they look. Maybe it's years of being compared, criticized, or overlooked that made them retreat from the spotlight. But instead of pretending to be okay for a digital audience, they choose honesty in silence. That's not weakness. It's emotional intelligence. It's knowing that you don't owe the internet proof of your existence. It's understanding that healing happens privately, not through filters and forced smiles. Some people don't post because they're tired of being judged in pixels. They've learned that the online world is quick to love what looks perfect and slow to understand what's real. And so they protect themselves, not because they hate who they are, but because they're still learning to love themselves without an audience watching. People like Eli teach us that insecurities don't always need to be fixed in front of others. Sometimes they need quiet space to soften and unfold. And when those people do decide to show up one day, it won't be for likes. It'll be because they finally feel at peace with who they are. So yes, some people who don't post have insecurities. But that doesn't make them weak. It makes them human. They're simply choosing to grow in silence, to love themselves away from the glare of constant comparison. And when you think about it, that's something we all could learn from. That sometimes the most beautiful transformations happen in private, not online. If this message spoke to you, visit my website. You'll find ebooks, audiobooks, and printable planners that help you reflect, heal, and grow at your own pace. There's so much more to discover about your emotional journey and how to take back your peace. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos that speak truth about mental health, self-awareness, and healing. Comment below your thoughts. Do you think privacy is misunderstood in today's world? Let's start a real conversation. And if this message touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today.